They're there because they want to win.
And that's what people remember.
I mean, it was just such a beautiful thing for the season.
If GW football had a program right now,
Three very strange words. Offensive balls.
Less hits, less earned runs, less runs.
Give me an NFL contract, and I'll play 2 extra.
we'll call it hazard pay.
If anyone can spark them, it might be their coach, Mike Singletary.
It's kind of a pillow fight.
It's not going to be the end of the league because all the players are dead.
The show is also unstoppable
must go on.
because we've still got another segment left. You, unstoppable. You, stoppable today, which is, of course, the opposite of unstoppable.
Who's ready to play?
Hey sports fans, you're tuned into Unstoppable here on Channel 61. I'm Denzel Washington here with Chris Pine and Rosario Dawson. We just came out today and we hope you're going to enjoy us at the theaters. Well, we're actually GWTV and we're here to talk sports with you. For Andrew Hanks and Max Feinblatt, I'm Chris Geissler here to talk about GW basketball, college football, the NBA, football, baseball. Stick around. We've got all the sports topics to talk about this week. Starting off with GW basketball, we've seen the exhibition game. We're heading into non-conference play. There's a lot of expectations around this team, but surrounding the first-year players, that's Guest, Mikic, Fitzgerald, and redshirt Damon Warren. Who are we expecting the most out of this season? Andrew.
Mikic, he looks pretty good coming out of the scrimmage, but I'm still not on the hype about him. You see, with him coming in, he is our highest total recruit this year. Last year it was Tim Johnson, and you saw that didn't really pan out into the star he was supposed to become. He was more of a role player. I don't think Nemanja is going to have the biggest role that everyone's saying he will.
So who is?
I do not underestimate Dan Guest. He looked good in the minutes they gave him, and he is a true point guard. That's what Hobbs wanted. He had 4 assists in I believe, 8 minutes. And he's looking to more pass the ball. And Hobbs did say that he wanted to possibly put Tony Taylor at the 2.
And you think that'll work? That is the early talk. You think that'll?
I think it will give the team a good look, and especially have a guy who's looking to give the ball up for shooters will help on this team.
You know, last year we saw a bunch of freshmen come in and they needed to play roles right away because the team was young and, you know, they just lost Diggs, and, you know, Haas was really the elder statesman of the group, and guys like Chroma, you know, they grew up with the experience already playing in their first year, and I think Nemanja Mikic is going to be one of those guys to, you know, play a lot, get a lot of time in his first year as a freshman on the team, and, you know, he's a great shooter, he's a smart kid.
And he'll be backing up LaShawn Chroma, though, right? You think that he'll get enough time to make a big impact?
I think so, because let's face it, they need the scoring. Hollis was their rock last year, and you know, I think
Hollis was so inconsistent last year, though. He was definitely not the rock.
Exactly, which is why Chroma's points per game needs to go up, and Mikic can be right behind him.
Okay, and then we're taking a look at the early season schedule. There's a couple games that we should consider very winnable, and a couple games not so winnable. Which game can we expect to be the first loss?
Well, probably you're looking at they're going to beat BU. They have all 3 years since I've been here so far, but I think they're going to lose at Villanova in this NIT preseason tip-off.
Dick's Sporting Goods NIT preseason
and
tip-off.
if we agree on that, I would probably go further and say that they might lose at George Mason. So after that, their first loss. You know, I know they beat George Mason at home last season, but convincingly, but George Mason was missing a couple of starters for some strange thing, and they've got the senior Cam Long coming back, and it'll be on the road this time, so we'll see if that makes a difference.
But they weren't missing Cam, and he is their big piece at George Mason. I do agree they will lose to Villanova. It's, you know, it's a home game for Villanova. It's at their arena, but I think, you know, they can go into George Mason with a lot of confidence and feed on the overconfidence of Mason, wanting to win and playing on their home court, and they can pull an upset, I think, playing their home court with that. I think they'll lose going out to Oregon State.
Where Sacramento State won in their home last year?
Returning the home and home. They came here last year, and I really think that Oregon State's become a better team. GW has not been traditionally good on road games or road trips coming out west, so I think that's going to be the first loss.
I will be there.
Okay, and then switching gears real quickly to the women's basketball team. What are the expectations for this season? Last season was a down season. What are we expecting from them?
It's definitely going to be better than last season. I mean, you can only go up from last season, having 3 starters injured. So they're going to be a new-look team, and Bozeman, I really think that he can build on this team. but there's still a threat. I think if they don't make the NIT at least this season, Bozeman's going to be on the hot seat of what he's doing with his team, because they've been traditionally good over the last decade.
Is Bozeman in trouble?
No, I mean, I think it's really unfair with all the injuries they had. They had, 6, 7 players at a time last year. Danny Jackson's coming back. Tara Booker's back. She's healthy now. So I think they're going to be better this season. I think Bozeman.
And these players are going to be as good as their recruiting status was?
They're going to be good. They're going to be better. They're going to win more games. I'm not sure if they're going to make the NIT, but I think Bozeman, I mean, from what I gather, he's a great coach. I don't think he deserves to go yet.
The ballpark, how are we expecting them to finish in the conference?
I would say around middle of the pack. I mean, an improvement from last. They're going to be improved from last season.
Okay. I guess I can buy that. You guys are telling me to be optimistic. It can happen. And definitely the hope is the injuries have to be better. As to what game will be GW's first loss, I agree with both of you. It'll probably be Villanova, but as far as after that, I think Mason's probably a good choice for that. I mean, the Patriot Center is going to be a tough place to play, and I think you make the right points that they'll have their good players back. In terms of the newcomer that's going to contribute, I agree with you. I'm not entirely sold on Mikic yet. He plays very poor defense, and I think that'll mean he's going to come out of games in important times, so he won't be able to have the big impact. But my question, I mean, the best player on the team is Tony Taylor, and Dan Guess is backing him up, so you don't really know. I am going to give that first segment, though, to Max for his debate on the women's basketball team. The college football season is heading towards the end of the college football season. Who deserves to be the biggest BCS buster? There's a couple teams this season that are really competing at the top with the big teams that aren't in automatic qualifying conferences. Who is it, TCU or Boise State, that deserves that national championship berth?
I'm going to go with Boise State. Still riding the blue and orange bandwagon here. I think both of them are great choices. Boise State is 8-0 right now. They have 4 games left to play. TCU's 10-0. They have 2 games left to play. Boise State has beaten number 10 Virginia Tech. I know they weren't so good in the beginning of the season, but they're ranked again now. They beat number 24 Oregon State, and they have number 21 Nevada coming up soon, so they're going to have to take care of them. But I don't really think it's going to be that big of a problem. And the reason why I would take Boise State over TCU is, I mean, if you look at all the games they played this season so far, they've steamrolled all of their opponents. And I gather that TCU beat Utah, which was ranked 5th last week, extremely handily, but I feel like Boise State
in Utah.
And I feel like Boise State has been so consistent for years now that they haven't really had anywhere to drop. And while TCU is still kind of on the rise, they're approaching them, and I understand they're ranked higher than Boise is now because of their record. I think Boise State still has all the advantages. They still should be higher than TCU when it comes down to the end of the season, assuming they both go undefeated. I think they will be higher than TCU.
To what extent does Kellen Moore play into that? Is he the biggest factor in
I mean, he's a great quarterback, and most people don't know because if they're not watching the Boise State games, but they are looking for him to make it into the pros, and I think in the college ranks right now, I mean, he's the leader of that team, and he's going to get the Broncos to the BCS championship if it's anyone.
But TCU's ranked higher, right?
I mean, technically TCU's ranked higher, and when you look at what they've been doing this year, they're both very similar, very evenly matched teams. But TCU, not only are they steamrolling opponents like Boise State is, their defense has been absolutely dominant. I think that they've given up a total of, or their average about 8 or 9 points per game. And they're moving along. They have just as good offense as Boise State. I know what you're saying with the last few years, Boise State has gained reputation and has gone all the way top, don't have anywhere to fall. But it's the same with TCU. I feel like they're kind of left out of these 2 mid-majors who are going up. And but the fact is, we're looking at this year, and TCU, the quarterback, Moore is a great quarterback, but TCU has also a good quarterback and offensive scheme. And I really believe that between the conferences, Mountain West is a little bit stronger. And even though they did beat off for Virginia Tech, Air Force was ranked at one point this season. Brigham Young was a decent team. But they beat Baylor.
But every time Boise State, comes across a challenge, they win it. Like, everybody's like, is this?
Are you saying TCU is not winning their challenges? They've been 4 ranked teams this year.
I think they've both really done this. This is where your problem is, because they've really done everything. Well, they have a couple games left, but they've done everything they've been asked to so far, and quite handily as well. So I think it's